My sister slept with my boyfriend and got pregnant, but when my dad died and left me inheritance, they started stalking me and destroyed my car. So I got a restraining order and he ended up arrested trying to kidnap me. I'm 24 years old. I work in digital marketing. And honestly, I need to tell this story because what happened with my family a few months ago still has me processing everything. Like, every day I discover something new about myself and about how the people you love most can hurt you in ways you never imagined. I guess I should start from the beginning, when things still seemed normal, or at least what I thought was normal in my family. I grew up in a house where appearances were everything. You know, one of those families where everything has to look perfect from the outside even though on the inside things are kind of broken. My mom was always very traditional, obsessed with what others thought of us, and my dad was quieter, worked all the time, but when he was home, he was the only one who really listened to me. I have two sisters, Audrey, who's 2 years younger than me, and Hazel, who's only 11. And the truth is there was always a weird dynamic with Audrey. Like my mom overprotected her and let her do things she never let me do. But I thought those were normal sister things. You know? Typical competition or whatever. I met Jordan when I was 22. He worked in the same building as me, but at a different company. And we met at the Starbucks on the ground floor because we both always arrived late and ran for the same coffee. He was handsome, funny, made me laugh even when I was stressed about work, and after dating for like 6 months, I decided it was time to introduce him to my family. Looking back, I think that was the moment when everything started to fall apart, though at the time I had no idea. Dinner was at my parents' house on a Sunday. Nothing elaborate, just a normal family meal where my mom made her famous roasted chicken, and Audrey was there with her usual attitude, like making comments about everything and seeking attention. I remember Jordan was super charming with everyone, helped set the table, asked my dad about his work, even played video games with Hazel after dinner. And I thought everything had gone perfectly. My mom told me she liked him. My dad nodded with approval. And Audrey, well, Audrey stayed quiet most of the time, which honestly seemed weird to me because she always has something to say about everything. The following weeks were normal. Jordan and I continued with our routine, went out on weekends, watched series at his apartment, planned a trip for the summer, and I was happy. Genuinely happy in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. But then I started noticing small things, like Jordan checking his phone more often and putting it face down when I was around. Or that sometimes he'd smile reading messages, and when I asked him what it was, he'd say nothing important, just memes from his friends. One night we were at my apartment watching a movie, and he went to the bathroom, leaving his phone on the table. And I'm not one of those people who checks phones. Seriously. I'd never done it before. But something in my stomach told me to. Look. Like a horrible hunch I couldn't ignore. I unlocked his phone. It had my fingerprint because supposedly we had no secrets, and went straight to his messages. And there they were. Conversations with Audrey, my sister Audrey, messages that started being normal after the dinner, like thanks for coming and all that. But that quickly became flirty, with her sending him photos in pajamas asking his opinion about I don't know what thing, and him responding with suggestive emojis and telling her she looked amazing. I sat there on my couch holding that phone and trying to process what I was seeing. And when Jordan came out of the bathroom, I was still with his phone in my hand. He went pale, completely white, and I just said, "What is this?" And he started with the typical excuses, that it was nothing, that Audrey was just being friendly, that I was misinterpreting everything, but I had read enough to know that wasn't just being friendly, that was blatantly flirting with your sister's boyfriend, and he was playing along. I asked him to leave my apartment that night. I didn't yell or make a dramatic scene. I just told him I needed space to think. And he left without fighting too much, which honestly hurt me even more because it meant he knew he had done something wrong. I didn't sleep at all that night. I stayed awake looking at the ceiling and wondering how long this had been going on, if they had already done anything physical or if it was just messages. And above all, I wondered why my sister would do something like that. The next morning, I went straight to my parents' house. It was Saturday, and I knew everyone would be there. And when I arrived, my mom was making breakfast, and Audrey was sitting at the table in her pink pajamas, reading something on her phone. I told her I needed to talk to her outside, and she looked at me like she had no idea what was happening, with that fake, innocent face she always put on when she knew she was in trouble. We went out to the yard, and I took out screenshots I had taken of the messages and showed them to her. And she didn't even try to deny it, just shrugged and told me, "It's not my fault he's interested in me." That answer left me speechless. I literally couldn't believe she was saying that as casually as if she were talking about the weather. I asked her if they had done anything beyond the messages, and she looked me straight in the eyes and told me, yes, that they had slept together twice, once in his car, after they went out for drinks one night, and another at a hotel near downtown. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I couldn't breathe well, and before I could say anything else, my mom came out asking what was happening, because apparently we were talking loud enough for her to hear us from the kitchen. I told my mom everything right there, showed her the messages, told her what Audrey had just confessed to me, and I expected my mom to take my side, to tell Audrey she had crossed an unforgivable line, but instead my mom stayed quiet for a long moment and then asked me if I was sure I wasn't exaggerating the situation. Exaggerating? My sister slept with my boyfriend and my mom thought I was exaggerating. My dad came out at that moment because he heard the raised voices, and when I explained the situation, he did get angry, like really furious, and told Audrey she had to leave the house, that this was unacceptable, and that he wasn't going to tolerate that kind of behavior under his roof. Audrey started crying, those dramatic tears that always worked with my mom. And my mom immediately started defending her, saying she made a mistake, but she was still her daughter, and that kicking her out wasn't going to solve anything. My dad stood firm and told her to leave for at least a few weeks while we all processed what had happened. And I left there feeling validated but also completely devastated, because my relationship had ended and my relationship with my sister would probably never be the same. Like 2 weeks passed, I was trying to move on with my life. I blocked Jordan everywhere and was going to therapy because, honestly, I couldn't process all that alone. And then I received a message from my cousin telling me there was something I needed to know. Audrey was pregnant, and the baby was Jordan's. I sat on the floor of my apartment when I read that message and just started crying, because the situation was already horrible, but this made it 1,000 times worse. It meant they were now going to be connected forever somehow. My dad called me that night. He sounded tired and sad, and told me Audrey had come back home because she was pregnant, and my mom insisted that the family had to be united in moments like this. I told him I couldn't believe he was allowing that after what she did to me, and he explained that he didn't agree, but that he also couldn't throw his pregnant daughter out on the street, that he hoped I would understand. Part of me understood, I guess. But another part felt completely betrayed, because I felt they were choosing Audrey over me, even after she was the one who did everything wrong. I stopped going to my parents' house after that. I only talked to my dad on the phone occasionally and with Hazel, who I tried to keep out of all the drama, because she was too young to understand the magnitude of what was happening. My mom tried to call me several times, but I didn't answer. I had nothing to say to her. And Audrey obviously never tried to contact me, which honestly was a relief because I don't know what I would have done if she had tried to justify herself. Fast forward like 6 months. Audrey had the baby, and apparently she and Jordan got married in a small ceremony at my parents' house. My cousin sent me photos because she thought I should know, and in the photos everyone was smiling as if it were a normal celebration, as if she hadn't destroyed my life to get to that point. My mom told people I couldn't attend because I was working on an important project, a convenient lie so no one would ask why the older sister wasn't at the wedding. Then, like 4 months ago, I received a call from my cousin again, but this time her voice sounded different, serious and sad, and she told me I needed to sit down before she told me what she was going to tell me. My dad had died. Heart attack. Completely sudden. I was in shock because no one had told me he was sick. No one had given me even a sign that something was wrong. And when I asked my cousin about that, she told me that apparently he had been having heart problems for months, but he asked everyone not to tell me because he didn't want to worry me given everything that had happened with Audrey. I went to the funeral, obviously. I wasn't going to let family drama prevent me from saying goodbye to my dad, and it was horrible, completely surreal to see everyone there acting as if we were a normal family. Audrey was there with Jordan and the baby. My mom was receiving condolences from people, and Hazel was crying, clinging to me, because I was the only person there. She felt understood how weird everything was. Audrey tried to approach me at one point, but I simply walked away. I wasn't ready to have that conversation, and definitely not at my dad's funeral. A week after the funeral, my dad's lawyer summoned us all for the reading of the will, and I went without expectations. Honestly, I just wanted everything to end so I could go back to my life and try to move forward. But when the lawyer started reading the percentages, I realized my dad had done something no one expected. He left me 40% of everything, Hazel 30%, my mom 20%, and Audrey only 10%. The silence in that office was deafening. You could feel the tension, and when I looked at Audrey, her face was completely red with anger. The lawyer also handed me a letter my dad had written for me, told me to read it in private when I was ready, and we all left there without saying much. My mom looked upset, but didn't say anything in front of the lawyer, and Audrey and Jordan left quickly without even saying goodbye. I went to my apartment and read my dad's letter, and basically it said he knew he had failed me by not defending me better when everything happened with Audrey, that he had been weak and had let my mom take control of the situation when he should have been firmer, and that this was his way of trying to compensate me for all the pain the family had caused me. I cried reading that letter. I read it like 5 times, and I realized my dad had seen me, had understood how unfair the whole situation had been, and this was his last way of telling me he was on my side. I kept the letter in a safe place and tried to move on with my life, thinking that maybe now that everything was resolved, the family could finally leave me alone. But 2 weeks later, the messages started. First from Audrey telling me it wasn't fair that I received so much when she had a baby to support, that I was selfish for not sharing what dad had left me, that as the older sister I should be helping her. I didn't answer those messages, just archived them. But then messages from Jordan started arriving, and these were different, more aggressive, saying, I didn't deserve that money, that I had abandoned the family and that's why I shouldn't receive anything, and that if I didn't voluntarily give Audrey at least half of what I got, he was going to make sure I regretted it. Those messages scared me. I'm not going to lie, but I thought they were just angry and would eventually calm down. I was wrong. One night, I arrived at my building after work and found all 4 tires of my car completely destroyed. Someone had slashed them with something sharp, and there were no cameras in that part of the parking lot, so there was no way to prove who did it. But I knew. Obviously, I knew. It couldn't be a coincidence that this happened right after Jordan sent me those threatening messages. I went to the police and filed a report, showed them Jordan's messages and told them about the tires, and they told me I could request a restraining order if I felt threatened. I did. Filled out all the papers with help from a lawyer I hired specifically for this, and like 2 weeks later, a judge granted me the restraining order against Jordan, prohibiting him from approaching me or contacting me in any way. I thought that would be enough for them to leave me alone. But again, I was wrong. I started receiving messages from unknown numbers. Messages that were clearly from Audrey, though she used different phones so I couldn't trace them. Telling me I was a bitch for putting a restraining order on her husband, that I was trying to destroy her family, that dad would be disappointed in me. I blocked every number that sent me messages, but a new one always appeared, and the constant feeling of being harassed had me on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Then something happened that completely terrified me. I arrived at my apartment one day and found a notebook at my door. There was no sender or note, just this normal spiral notebook like the ones you use in school. I opened it, and there were pages and pages of handwritten notes about me, about my routines, what time I left my apartment, what routes I took to work, what restaurants I ate at, even details about the clothes I had worn on specific days. Someone had been following me, documenting my every move, and had compiled all that in this notebook as if it were some kind of twisted project. I called the police immediately, showed them the notebook and the messages I had been receiving, and they said they were going to investigate but couldn't do much without concrete evidence of who was behind everything. They suggested I stay at a hotel for a while they worked on the case, and I took that advice because, honestly, I didn't feel safe in my own apartment knowing someone knew exactly where I lived and what my routines were. I moved to keep a hotel near my office, didn't tell anyone where I was except my boss and my cousin, who I trusted completely, and tried to keep a low profile. But after like a week at the hotel, I started having that feeling again. That feeling that someone was watching me. And one day when I left work, I saw a car that looked a lot like Jordan's parked across the street. I didn't approach, just took note of the plates and reported it to the police, and they told me they were going to investigate. That night I decided to change hotels, didn't tell anyone, not even my cousin, just packed my things and went to a completely different one in another part of the city. But 2 days later I received a call from the police telling me they had arrested Jordan trying to enter my old hotel room. Apparently he had bribed someone at reception to give him an extra key, and when the police detained him, he had the notebook with the notes about me in his car along with other things that suggested he had been planning something. The police told me they had him in custody and were considering charges of harassment, violation of the restraining order, and possibly attempted kidnapping, depending on what they found in his car. I felt enormous relief but also deep sadness because this meant the person I once loved and thought I was going to spend my life with was capable of this, of stalking and threatening someone this way just because he didn't get what he wanted. Audrey tried to contact me through Hazel, sent messages to our younger sister, asking her to tell me it was all a misunderstanding, that Jordan was just worried about me and had gone to the hotel to verify I was okay. But Hazel showed me the messages and also told me Mom was trying to get money to pay Jordan's bail, and I told Hazel to stay away from all that drama, that it wasn't her responsibility to fix things between us. The case against Jordan is in process now. My lawyer says it's probably going to end in a guilty plea because the right in 50 evidence against him is pretty strong. I moved to a new apartment in a different part of the city, changed my phone number, and basically started from scratch. Only Hazel and my cousin know where I live now, and I've been going to therapy regularly because all this left me with severe anxiety and trust issues. My mom never apologized, never acknowledged that she allowed Audrey to hurt me and then defended Jordan when he started stalking me. Audrey didn't apologize either. According to what Hazel tells me, she still thinks I'm the villain of the story, that I ruined her marriage by putting the restraining order on her husband. And honestly, I don't care anymore what they think. I'm no longer looking for their validation or their remorse. I just want peace and to move forward with my life. The money my dad left me I'm using to build something better for myself. I'm thinking of starting my own marketing consulting business, something I always wanted to do but never had the capital to begin. I'm also helping Hazel with her studies, paying for a tutor for math because she always had trouble with that subject, and trying to be the older sister she deserves, even if that means keeping her away from the rest of the family. Last week, Hazel asked me if I would ever forgive Audrey, and I told her the truth, that I don't know. That forgiveness is something complex, and I'm not sure Audrey deserves my forgiveness when she hasn't even acknowledged the harm she caused. Hazel nodded as if she understood, and then she told me something that made me cry. She told me that when she grows up, she wants to be like me, someone who stands up for herself and doesn't let people walk all over her. And I think that's enough for now, knowing that at least my younger sister learned something good from this whole horrible situation.